Shana Tova. Gamar Chatima Tova. The book is wide open. Do you feel it? May it be so. So I'd like to, with your permission, offer a few words. And today, I just want to really say how my heart is quelling. I feel touched. I feel blessed. I'm grateful for Paige, for how you just facilitated this Torah service. Thank you. Adi, grateful for getting the kahal moving and dancing. And so many offerings. I would get into trouble if I started to name them all, because I might miss one, but there's so many, right? The musicians, the teachers that are coming through, elders who are anchoring the community. So I'm just so grateful for everything here. And I feel the one-heartedness of the moment. Do you feel the one-heartedness of the moment?
Yes.
And I want to say that this unity, however, is not a given. And nor is it complete. And that is what this talk is about. There are hurts between us from the past. There are systems of oppression at work here, within each of us, within our community, our organization. Each one of us is a work in progress. I am a work in progress. And frankly, I wrestled with whether I should even stand up and share story again. Here I am, a white, privileged Ashkenazi, cis male, land-owning, married with 3 children, rabbi, executive director, who's sharing my story again. So I thought maybe this is more appropriate to have someone else give this talk. And with David and Keisha right in front of me here, I feel so touched that y'all brought your stories here last night. How many of you felt the power of their stories last night? So thank you. And in some ways that opens up a space, because I do feel like it's important for me to share about my personal journey, specifically about my blind spots, and how I am really working hard, trying to work hard, to create a more equitable, just, inclusive, diverse wilderness Torah. And so I share today, I want to weave a little bit of ancient story, a little bit of ritual, and then how I am personally navigating power, racism, personal growth, and organizational evolution. The hurts that I perpetuate, and the growing awareness of how to navigate these delicate landscapes. My intention here is for healing, for growth, moving towards wholeness, and I know that just in opening these conversations, I'm taking a risk. I'll probably make mistakes here. I might even hurt somebody here. And I want to say I'm open to your feedback afterwards, because that's part of the process. And here I go. So I want to begin with an ancient tale about our ancestors when we were wandering in the wilderness. I know you're shocked about that. And it's instructive, I think, about how we interact with our blind spots. So after the exodus from Egypt, Moses sends 12 spies, chieftains of the 12 tribes, to scout the land of Canaan in preparation to go into the land that is promised. 10 of those spies return with distorted tales of impenetrable, fortified cities, with giants that make them feel like grasshoppers, and sightings of Amalek, the mythic arch-enemy. From their fear and their projections, these 10 conclude that Canaan is uninhabitable. Only Caleb and Joshua have the faith that God promised the land as it actually was. And the story teaches that the 10 communal leaders saw Canaan through distorted perspectives, the consequences of which was the whole tribe would have to wander through the wilderness for 40 more years. In one midrash, each year of these 40 years, the wandering Israelites would all dig their graves on the eve of Tisha B'Av, and then sleep in their graves that night. And when they awoke, they would count the dead that did not make it through the night. They said that 1/40 of the tribe died each of those nights across those 40 years. This story reminds me that, like the spies, the distortions through which we see the world, through which I see the world, create a world that is not exactly as it might truly be. Based on our fears and based on our traumas, we are prevented from entering into the promised land, whatever that is for you. If unattended and not revealed, these distortions become blind spots that drive the show. So in Yom Kippur, we do the deep work of examining our blind spots, asking ourselves, how have I missed the mark? Who have I hurt? What behavioral patterns are getting in the way of living my life to its fullest? Yom Kippur is like those 40 years in the desert, in the wilderness. For in Yom Kippur, we metaphorically dig our own graves. We practice death. We cease from all the worldly deeds that give us life, eating, drinking, and all sorts of creative acts. Yes, including sex. We wear simple clothing. For some, we wear the kittel, like I'm wearing tonight, the burial shroud that we are married in and buried in. And we wear on Yom Kippur. And the main event is repeating the Vidui, the confessional prayer that is akin to the Vidui we say on our actual deathbeds. Yom Kippur calls upon each of us to confront death in order to fully live. So today on our deathbeds, I ask you, what must die so that you can truly live? Said another way, what blind spots do I need to reveal to myself so that we may interrupt them, so we can best conduct our lives? And today I want to reveal some of my blind spots so we can build a healthier community. In all my years chanting the Vidui and the Al-Chet, I rarely had a personal blind spot revealed to me while chanting the Vidui. However, I experienced that liturgy more like an instruction, an invitation to explore more. And this is why we chant the Vidui and we work together in Chavruta to do the deeper work. Thank you for showing up for that work. And in that kind of work, I've been learning about my own blind spots from courageous members of the Wilderness Torah staff and community. And I want to acknowledge the emotional labor that goes into this and the risks that have been taken to step forward with me. I'm grateful for, and I hope that staff and community will continue to bring me such reflection and feedback, knowing that I am growing my capacity to be open, to listening, to become more aware and less defensive. And I'm a work in progress. I especially want to thank Adi Abudi. Where are they, Adi? Thank you, Adi. And I want to thank Sarah Elise Rund. Where's Sarah Elise? Both who helped me reveal 2 blind spots this year. Trust me, there's more, but I'm going to just stick to 2 today. The first is related to my white privilege and the experiences of people of color at Wilderness Torah. And the second is about gender and power. I want to thank you for speaking with me before this so I could share these stories, knowing that I have permission and knowing that we are together in this. So thank you. So first with Adi, who is a long-time stakeholder of Wilderness Torah, serves in many ways, as you've seen today. She's a Jew of both Mizrahi and Ashkenazi descent, and through her Iraqi heritage, is on a powerful journey exploring what it means to be a Jew of color, a JOC. And I'm very grateful, Adi, for how you've brought me into your exploration of this journey, and how you've supported Wilderness Torah to become more aware and supportive. And I'm looking at Ophir right next to you, and I thank you as well. Both of you, during Passover in the desert, that was the last Passover in the desert, that was 2019. Wow. Adi and Ophir Habeber, amongst others, created and held the first JOC Sephardi Mizrahi space and tribe at a Wilderness Torah festival. Thank you. And based on my blind spots, I failed to provide and support the needed support for this powerful and emergent work. And I want to thank you, Adi, for sharing with me and with beloved community and our friendship, and you coming and telling me how I had those blind spots. So thank you. I can aim to continue to grow in this area. As I become more aware of areas of growth like these, I have sought avenues for effective organizational growth and culture change. When I first became the executive director in 2019, I agreed to do that on the condition that we would explore a vision for structural change to become a more collectively held and run organization. I believe that sociocracy or some other circular governance would be the answer to becoming a healthier community. I've always believed in the power of collective leadership. However, I have learned that intent, vision, even good conduct, even good leadership is insufficient to keep us out of the tractor beam of patriarchy. In the fall of 2019, we conducted an organizational review, a 360, and on behalf of Zelig, that's Zelig and Ellie, I want to thank the over 50 community members who showed up in person in 2019 to do this work with us, to reflect with us, and the many others who dug into this process through surveys and other things. And Ellie, thank you for your deep anchoring, your mentorship, your guidance, and your hard work, totally unseen in this community, that you do constantly for Wilderness Torah. Would you stand up for a second? This is Ellie Schindelman, our elder and teacher and mentor, and so much of the health of this organization and community and my personal life, frankly, is due to your wisdom and guidance. So in the process, we realized that structural change like sociocracy was not the medicine we needed. What we needed was to address cultural issues that were deeply ingrained in our village. So we hired Will Grant, synthesis guide, to take us on a journey. Will supported us to explore many blind spots, symptoms of patriarchy. And to name a few: unconscious power distribution, unclear decision-making frameworks, which reinforce unbalanced power distribution, underdeveloped feedback processes that fail to empower feedback loops that feed unbalanced power distributions, and a gender bias that favors male ideas, masculine ways of doing things, and unbalanced power distribution. So Sarah Elise and I had an interaction recently. Sarah Elise is our community programs manager and has been give a snap and a clap and a shout. Not only is Sarah Elise behind the scenes on so much what's happening here, you're also anchoring our culture change work inside the organization. And I want to thank you for your hard work, logistical, relational, and so much labor, emotional labor, that is going into helping make Wilderness Torah a healthier organization. Thank you. And thank you for helping me evolve. In one instance, back in March, the entire staff had a very powerful conversation about gender and power. And in a critical moment, you reflected to me where I had discounted a younger female's ideas in favor of an older male employee's ideas. And you helped me see that my failure to recognize my power and my privilege in that moment, and my position and my gender, led to me to a failure to grok how my decision-making power impacts others. How my privilege is a distortion through which I have failed to see how I impact others. Thank you. Now, in sharing these stories, I mean to reveal my blind spots and my growing awareness, while acknowledging that I am a work in progress. The journey continues. And I want to thank the entire Wilderness Torah staff for leaning into this cultural change work. On top of everything we do, it's been tons of hours of time, meetings, and also digging into content that you may or may not have wanted to dig into. I appreciate the concerted effort we are making together, your efforts to support this work, and in an effort to embed the cultural change work in a lasting way, and ultimately to fasting, dry lips, like Velcro, to make this last in the organization and beyond. We are adopting a culture change plan with the overarching goal to heal patriarchy inside of ourselves and inside the organization, and to do what Wilderness Torah was founded for, to build a resilient village, to support that beyond Wilderness Torah. And so I want to share the 8 steps that we've adopted, and of course this will evolve. Number 1, structuring feedback processes that make feedback second nature to ensure easy access to those with more power, me in particular, and to build a trusting culture of feedback. Creating affinity groups to give marginalized groups within the staff consistent support while giving those with more power, cis men in particular, a venue to learn and be accountable. We are strengthening the Wilderness Torah staff mentoring culture to distribute power more evenly, cultivate autonomy and collaboration, and to cultivate a resilient work environment. Creating a monthly staff check-in about this work to create accountability, to deepen, and then to embed this work beyond the staff. To embed an elder into the staff organization, creating accountability and support. So again, thank you, Ellie, for coming into the staff and working with us in person on a quarterly basis to say, hey, how's it going? And also to provide gratis coaching work for us when stuff comes up. Wow. Thank you. We are also committing to doing our Jedi work, justice, equity, diversity, inclusivity. We are focusing on how to become a more racially inclusive and just organization right now. So we have committed, with the support of our Jedi consultants, Acacia and David, to really dig into how do we learn how to see our blind spots around racism. How do we paint a picture for ourselves and create a reality where people can feel included regardless of their identity, and to create pipelines in the leadership staff, on the board, and in the community. 7, we have planned to hold a ceremony this fall for the staff team to initiate this work and to engage in a process of harm repair and healing. And finally, we will provide a written report of all this. It'll come out before the end of the year to talk about what we've been doing since 2019 and how we're continuing and how we'll have accountability. So as we enter the Shemitah year 5782, we are putting a deep stake into the healing of our culture from the inside out. And I want to again say thank you to all those who have supported the process and to all those who will step in and continue supporting this work. This cultural healing is Teshuvah, literally the return back into right relationship. The Teshuvah we do individually between our relationships with our friends, family, and others, and collectively, such as the healing of patriarchy I've been talking about today, is an essential foundation for the bigger vision of becoming effective stewards of this precious planet. So how many of you want to go there together? To become stewards of this precious planet together? Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about the connection between Yom Kippur and that endeavor. So what is the mythical, the mystic, the magic of Yom Kippur in this regard? A Talmudic tale, I hope, explains a bit about that. Around the 1st century CE, during the time of the fall of the Second Temple, sometime soon thereafter most likely, there was an extreme drought, a climate change event of serious proportions. And the rabbis had ordered a fast in order to respond. That's the way our ancients did it. We fasted in times of drought. We fasted in climate events. The great Tannaitic sage Rabbi Eliezer descended to the ark to pray for rain. He recited 24 psalms, the Talmud says, and he was not answered. And then he ordered the community to go home and dig their graves. But Rabbi Akiva, his student, said, let me give it one last chance. So he descended before the ark and he prayed, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu en lanu melech, Elata Avinu Malkeinu lamancha rachem alenu. Our Father, our King, we have no higher power than you. Our Father, our King, for your sake, have mercy on us. And in that moment, the rains fell. After celebrating the rain, the sages were whispering, why Akiva and not Eliezer? And a divine voice came through the celebration and curiosity and said, it is not because Akiva is greater than Eliezer, but that Akiva is the forgiving one. God responded to Rabbi Akiva's forgiving nature by bringing the rain. The sages were experts in climate change resilience, because as it says in Deuteronomy, Canaan soaks up its waters from the rains of heaven. They understood that water is life. As we see in the tale of Rabbi Akiva, forgiveness is the key, at least one of the keys, to successfully bring the rains once again. The spiritual cleansing demanded on Yom Kippur, Mechila, Salicha, kapara. This is the preparatory doorway to our prayers for Sukkot and for bringing the rains. On Yom Kippur, we are taught that forgiveness can happen on different levels. Mechila, translated something like remitting a debt. It's like the basic approach. I come to you and say, I'm sorry. And you say, it's all good. The ritual is complete. But slicha, forgiveness, true forgiveness, is a completely different process. In slicha, we must actually feel how we've hurt somebody. We must see and understand the imperfections inside of ourselves. And most importantly, see and understand the impact we have had. And that this impact may persist, even if there's been acknowledgement. And even if mechila, if there's been forgiveness given and accepted. This might happen multiple times. Slicha goes beyond the ideas into the depth of the heart. And then there's kapara, spiritual cleansing, the namesake of Yom Kippur. It's an inner experience, Rabbi Kukla says, of return, of feeling whole, a sense of expansion, relief, and elevation. Forgiveness is the choice of a victim. Atonement is an experience of divine grace. And as I reflect on the various levels of forgiveness on Yom Kippur, I feel the long haul of culture repair. As my dear friend Mark Morey teaches, culture change is slow. And I feel my personal responsibility and the depth of complexity for systemic teshuvah related to patriarchy, white supremacy, and the many other distortions and blind spots that we swim in. And I hold the vision that this healing, in concert with remembering our roles as sacred tenders of this precious planet, is the pathway to becoming rainmakers once again. So I am evermore a devotee of the path of giving and asking for forgiveness as I discover and continue to work on my blind spots. So how does that sound? So I'm wondering if you are in this with me. Do you want to join me in this? The discovering of blind spots. The healing of our community and these patterns that plague us. Who's down? Great, because I want to invite you right now into an exercise that Ellie helped me create. Thank you, Ellie. And in this, I'd like to invite us to do 6 minutes atonement process, very specifically focused on blind spots. Each of us to share an example of a blind spot you discovered this year with your chevruta. And if you don't have a blind spot on the tip of your tongue, then go into your intuition and say, what's a blind spot that I might consider exploring? And do that with your chevruta. Here are a few examples. Not realizing how the impact of how I've responded to defensively to feedback. Not realizing that I am different with a young woman than I am with a young man, for example. Realizing that I'm different with a person of color than a white person. Realizing that requests that I make that seem simple to me may fail to value another's time. And of course, there are so many others. So I encourage you as well to sit with your discomfort when you explore the blind spot. Try not to avoid making yourself or anyone else feel better, but sit in that. This is teshuvah. This is the work of teshuvah. So raise your hand if you're down to take 3 minutes each and do this together. All right, so I invite you now to find a partner, and I'll call you back in 6 minutes with very brief closing. Friends, we're going to come together now and conclude this moment because there's many more moments. So just a show of hands. How many of you felt like you were able to tap into a blind spot that you discovered from this year that you're able to share? Gewalt. And how many of us are down to continue exploring this work, the things that lurk around the corners that we're only starting to become aware of? Oh, I join you in that. And to conclude, I wanted to say that I'm humbled by all of this. In particular, the depth of my own conditioning as a white cisgendered male, and how I've been profoundly shaped by white supremacy and patriarchy. And I say this with a really tender heart because my father, as we speak, is in the process of dying. Quite literally. He's in Spokane, preparing for his final journey, and I'm so grateful for all the gifts and also becoming deeply more aware of how he passed these to me and how I want to learn how to not pass on some of these pieces on to Ezra and to Ilana and to Emma and to our community. Thank you for joining me in that. And as Ellie shared with me in preparation for this, it is not necessarily perfect harmony and unity that will bring the rains, but rather it's about getting real, getting into the grit of where we fail and where we fall, how we hurt, and where power is out of balance. And when we turn towards getting real and doing the work of repair, this is the path of forgiveness. This is the path towards calling the rains for real.